The most strategic decision I have made over the last several years was not working harder, it was choosing rest. And I'm not just talking about sleep. And that's what I want to talk about in today's video, how my decision to choose rest, deep, nourishing, restorative rest that goes beyond just sleep, literally elevated everything else in my life. I'm probably gonna age myself, but do you remember when we was like in our 20s, um, the phrases, "Oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead," or "Team no sleep," like all of these things, running ourselves ragged, staying up all night long. And then when we got older into our corporate careers or in our careers in general, if you're watching this video, then you probably can relate. Climbing the corporate ladder, trying to reach all these goals, like rest was not a part of your leadership strategy. And for me ignoring rest caused me to burn slap out, and I mean crispy, burnt crisp, by not prioritizing rest. Because I feel like when we got to a place when, let me know if you can relate, but I'm going to share my story. When I got to a place of being in my career and then having that mentality of climbing the corporate ladder, chasing your goals, your dreams, desires, rest was just not a part of the equation. I did not see rest modeled for me in any way in my family or mentors or other women around me in corporate America, because I feel like if rest was even discussed, it's like perceived as like you're being lazy or you're not that go getter that you claim to be. Or if you rest for some reason, like somebody might surpass you or you might get behind on something. Or just that old adage saying, like I'll sleep when I'm dead. I feel like that was the belief that so many of us had. Again, I know I had it, and again, this goes beyond just sleeping. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more because if I'm honest, like I've never really had any issues with sleep. Even during my season of like deep, dark burnout, there would be like nights kind of intermittently here and there where I would have trouble sleeping. But just as a whole, like I've always been a good sleeper girl. One thing I'm going to do is go to sleep. You hear me? Uh, I've always been the type of person that goes to bed a little bit earlier too. Even when I was like younger, I would go to bed like so early. So again, this goes deeper than just sleep, because if you didn't know, there are seven, yes, seven different types of rest, and sleep kind of goes into that bucket of physical rest. And of course, I didn't know about the seven types of rest in my younger age. With me getting older and really prioritizing my rest and just really having a life centered around rest and wellness, particularly creative rest, I've come to know, deeply understand, and teach about the seven types of rest based off of Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith's framework. She's also the author of Sacred Rest, but there are seven different kinds of rest. And often, us women, especially driven women, tend to only, if we have the time to squeeze that in, but we only focus on physical rest. But there's seven types. So there's physical rest, emotional rest, mental rest, spiritual rest, social rest, sensory rest, and then my fave, creative rest. So there are seven different types of rest. And during my season of, corporate climbing, burnout, sabbatical, I really did not even understand what rest felt like true rest, true nourishing rest. I did not even know what it felt like to my body until I was in my sabbatical. And that's sad because why Why should we and why do we put ourselves in a position to be like on our last leg before we take care of ourselves? And the reason why I talk about this, because I want to speak about it more so more women will be aware of this, especially driven women, ambitious women, high achieving women, and women won't have to hit the wall that I hit. Women may not have to experience burnout the way I did. Or if you are in that path or have experienced that, just learning, just having language for the type of rest that your body needs. And because language changes everything. It definitely has for me over these last 4 years, because you can't like know something or understand something or even speak to something if you don't have the language for it. So when I say rest, like when I started truly prioritizing rest, it elevated everything in my life. Like it elevated everything in my life. So first, I'm going to list the things because I have them listed here. I'm going to list the actual things that what I changed and then what elevated. But what I started with, and again, you have to figure out what works best for you. But what I started with was a very intentional morning routine. And for me, I knew I had to start there because during my corporate leadership career, I was the person that as soon as my alarm went off, I would be in my phone and my iPad checking work emails. Like before my feet even hit the floor, I was checking work emails. And then after that, getting up, like the whole rushing, doing this, like just the chaos of the morning. And I didn't have any children to be getting ready, running around the house. So it's just like, why? And then I would turn on the morning news, and we already know like the morning news is just nothing but disaster and fear and all of the things. It's like just the way that I would start off my morning was just not conducive to starting your day in a calm, relaxed, easeful way that will set the tone for your day. So that's why I started with the morning routine, because I knew something was going to have to change with that. So, of course, my morning routine has really developed over the years, but I started being intentional about it during my sabbatical. And just what I mean by that is just waking up at a certain time, not looking at my phone, not worrying about work, not like not just living in like that autopilot, automatically just going into like work mode or do mode or execute mode. Just really taking the time to like just slowly ease into the morning, get yourself together without rushing, get ready. If you do your skincare, listen to music, whatever that is for you. Like now, my morning routine is very like thorough. Yes, I'm in the 5 a.m. club. I know some women might not be a part of 5 a.m. club, but I'm part of the 5 a.m. club. And here's the thing: my alarm goes off at 5 a.m., but I'm not like getting up, making a protein shake, like going on a run, doing no, I'm not doing all that. I get up at 5 a.m., my alarm goes off, and I wake up. So I'm awake, but I'm still just laying in bed, coming aware of my presence, just being for about 30 minutes. I would say 20 to 30 minutes. Then I sit up in bed. I'll have my Bible. I'll do my morning devotionals just right while I'm in bed. And again, I have not picked up my phone or anything. So just depending on how deep I want to go into that, that will be anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. Then I will get up, go to the bathroom, brush your teeth, skincare, all of the things, just depending on where I'm working from the day. Most of the days I work from home, but if I'm co-working with a friend or I have to go to the office or if I want to take a walk on the beach, then I'll get myself ready. If I'm working from home, it'll be something relaxed and cozy. If I have to go out somewhere, I'll put on a little makeup or something. About 3 times a week, I do try to go to the beach because I love the beach. I'm so close to the beach, so I'll go for a beach walk, and then I'll come back home, make myself a quick breakfast. That's one of the things too that is a part of care for myself. I'm a breakfast girl. Listen, I have to have my breakfast. So I do make myself a warm breakfast every morning. And it's something basic, avocado toast. I make my own homemade granola. So I might like have granola and berries and yogurt. But I'm having myself a made breakfast every morning. And then I will start my work day. So again, I know that's like very advanced, but you don't have to start there. That again, I have elevated to that point over the years of having such a thorough morning routine, but it really, really sets the tone for my day, and it really allows me to stay rooted in rest and care for myself. So some of the things that I changed when I started choosing rest is just having some white space in your schedule, like not having every single moment of the day booked with something. If it's gonna be booked with something, it's gonna be like, if it's my work calendar, I'll have it booked as focus time, and I'll do what I need to do there. And if it's on my personal calendar, it'll just be like self time. And then I'll do what I need to do. But no longer are those days where you're just back to back to back to back to back meetings, clients. No, that has changed. I am definitely focused on as much creative output as I have to put out into the world, both applied and artistically. I make sure that I practice creative rest, which is pouring back into myself, my creative expression, just for the parts that feel me joy. I already told you about my morning routine. I have boundaries around my capacity. I've talked about this in several of my past videos if you've watched, but capacity is a lot, and we have to understand. I know people use the word boundaries a lot nowadays, but capacity means a lot, and it's not just about how much you can take on or how much work you can do or how much you can hold, but it's thinking to yourself, does this thing allow this level of access to my time and energy at this time? So just really getting clear on your capacity and holding firm but maybe flexible boundaries around your capacity. No is a full sentence. Leave that there. And just making time for myself and taking breaks throughout the day. Because again, let's just use work for example. We have those people who work all throughout the day, don't take a break, don't eat nothing, don't drink nothing, just work. I remember doing that in my corporate leadership career. Matter of fact, like just sitting at my desk, eating the lunch and still working. No, mm-mm. No, 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 we're not doing that. I have to step away from the desk, the computer. It is so beneficial in so many ways than you can even imagine, just to step away from that desk and eat yourself something, just to recharge your body, just to move your body. Those are some of the things that I changed. And when I started changing those things, and again, none of this like happened overnight. There were slow, small, intentional changes. And that's what you have to do, because when we try to overhaul our complete lives, that's when we kind of backslide into old habits, old behaviors. It's just picking that one thing. Like for me, it was starting with that morning routine. And it might just be a smart part of your morning routine, like even breaking that up even smaller for yourself, like maybe the first 15 minutes is for you or whatever that looks like, but starting small and then building upon that. Because again, if you try to do everything at once, it's probably not going to be sustainable. It's probably not going to last long. And when I say my life elevated, clarity improved. I had so much brain fog and Aside from that, like poor self trust, when you start resting your body, especially holistically, tapping into all seven types of rest, the clarity that comes through the roof. My creativity continues to expand because when you're resting your body, when you're giving to yourself, when you're pouring back into yourself, when you're caring for yourself, when you're allowing yourself to take a break from analyzing and problem solving, it allows God to bring those divine downloads in and that creativity to spark. My nervous system stabilizes, it's not all over the place. That was one of the first things I noticed during my sabbatical. And I talk about it in my book, Release and Renew, but my nervous system just started to calm down and stabilize a little bit more when you start prioritizing that rest. My relationships deepened, romantic relationships and friendships. Again, because when you're taking care of yourself, it allows you the space to make room for others. My decision making sharpened. Again, that goes along with the clarity, and like the self trust, like my self trust really built because I saw that making the decision to choose rest, especially when the world wants us to do anything other than rest, and the positive impacts, even in the smallest ways that I started seeing in my life, it allowed for me to trust myself and started making my decision making even stronger. And then my work quality increased. After my sabbatical, I'm back in corporate America while building a business. And I'm kind of doing more, but at the same time, still prioritizing rest. That's why I'm a true believer that you can have ambitious goals, you can do big things, you can accomplish things, and you can prioritize rest because I'm doing it. It is achievable. Again, as I shared, there are seven types of rest, and creative rest is the one that I lean into mostly. Of course, you have to tap into all of them to be fully rested. And again, you might need some more than you need others on certain days and certain months and certain seasons, whatever that may look like for you. But for me, again, since I'm a creative entrepreneur and I do a lot of creative things for work, I have to have ways to pour back into myself creatively. So, creative rest is a big part for me. I paint just for fun, I cross stitch just for fun. I find nature walks and paths just for fun because it brings me joy. I create I create so many different things like just for fun, just to fill my cup and not to have to produce anything for the world or sell or monetize anything, but it's creating in a space that's just for me. And just doing that and being intentional about that is so restorative, restful. And again, in my 40s, I am the healthiest I have ever been in my life. And I really do credit that to just being more intentional about many things, but rest, that's one of them. And the last thing that I'll talk about when it comes to rest is I really, during my sabbatical, like I had to get closer to God, and that relationship just continues to get stronger because for Him to be able to allow me to have the strength to come out of the deep, dark depths that burnout had taken me, but God. So I had to come to the realization that, and I made this sweatshirt. Let's see if you can see it a few weeks ago. Let's see, there we go. But created, then rested, Genesis 2:2. God rested. He rested. He gave us the blueprint for rest. He was the ultimate model for rest. He created the heavens, the earth, the sea, the moon, the sun, the stars, the animals, you and me. He created. And then he rested. So why are we running around here trying to run ourselves into the ground, run ourselves ragged, and thinking that we're not supposed to rest? Rest is a human need. Rest is a human need. God meant for us to rest. Not only is rest a act of resistance, but rest is a divine practice. I'm going to read Genesis. I was going to say 2:2, but let's start from Genesis chapter 2, verse 1, and then go into 2. Um, Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. This is in the King James Version. Verse 2. And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. Verse 3. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. So again, I ask, if God rested, why aren't you? Why aren't you resting? And I do understand too that boldly practicing rest and prioritizing rest can require a level of trust, self-trust. And I deeply understand that sometimes rest may not feel safe. But I want you to understand, especially if you're a believer, that you don't have to constantly prove yourself. You don't constantly have to be in a state of output. God is not asking you, God is not requiring you to run yourself ragged to exhaustion. He welcomes you to rest. One of my favorite verses, Matthew 11:28, is kind of like what I kind of center my work on. But all those who are weary and heavy burdened, come to me and I will give you rest. He's telling us to come to him, rest in him, and not, of course, physical rest, but also spiritual rest. Rest is mentioned over 400 times in the Bible. Rest, or a variation of rest, like rest, rested, restful. So this isn't something that God just takes lightly. He wants us to rest. He modeled rest for us. So I'll leave it there. But again, when I chose rest, when I prioritized rest, just everything in my life elevated. And no, my life is not perfect. We're not talking about perfect here. There's still a lot of things that I'm working on, especially if you've watched some of my other videos as I'm going on this 100-day journey. But rest has been a key component to how I live, work, and how healthy I am, how calm I am, and how creative I am. So I have some questions for you. As always, I want you to reflect on this. What type of tired or exhaustion continues to repeat itself? I want you to marinate on that, because oftentimes that points to the type of rest that you need most in your life. What type of tire or exhaustion continues to repeat itself? Then it goes to, what kind of rest do I actually need? Again, there are 7 types. What would sustainable ambition, drive, goal setting, achievement, all of the things that we desire and that we identify with, What would that feel like if it was sustainable? What would it feel like in your body if it were sustainable? Again, God invited us to rest. He modeled rest for us. I got my sweatshirt created, then rested. And again, I made this, I created the design. One of my girlfriends has one of those little cricket machines, I call her. I was like, hey girl, I made this design. Can I come over and use your machine? I want to put it on a sweater. And she's like, yeah, come on over. So I made this, and I've gotten compliments on it when I'm out in the world. I'm like, oh yeah, I made this, and no, it's not for sale. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't ever sell it, but right now I just made it just for me as an act of creativity and an act of rest. Just again, to put out in the world that rest is not only an act of resistance, our divine right, but it is a human need. And yes, you, woman, ambitious woman, driven woman, high achieving woman, you are human and it is a human need. I'm Erica Prevail. I create daily conversations for driven, purpose led women, helping them rework their relationship with ambition, capacity, rest, and creativity. And if you're a woman that is navigating a season of misalignment or career exhaustion, check the description box. I have some helpful resources down there that may be able to support you. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.